In every corner of America, there are stories of resilience, innovation, and the unwavering spirit of community. Welcome to The Community Effect, the podcast where we explore the intersection of community development, affordable housing, and the impact it has on us all. We'll uncover the blueprint for building thriving communities, one story at a time. Join us as we showcase the strategies and solutions that are shaping a brighter tomorrow. The Community Effect, hosted by Marietta Rodriguez, President and CEO of NeighborWorks America.
Welcome back to The Community Effect, where we explore stories of place, possibility, and the people who make communities stronger. I'm your host, Marietta Rodriguez, President and CEO of NeighborWorks America. Today, we're focusing on the connection between housing, inheritance, and stability. For many families, maintaining ownership of a home across generations is a major part of building financial security. The challenges like tangled titles, unexpected inheritance issues, and repeated disruptions can make that difficult. No organization understands this better than Fifth Ward Community Redevelopment Corporation in Houston, Texas. And no one leads this work with more commitment than our guest, Kathy Flanagan Payton. Kathy is President and CEO of Fifth Ward CRC, a nationally recognized NeighborWorks network organization driving comprehensive revitalization in one of Houston's most historic and resilient neighborhoods. Kathy is an exceptional visionary leader whose work spans real estate development, community and economic development, homeownership support, and heritage preservation. Kathy, I'm really excited that you're here with us.
Thank you, Marietta. I am so excited to tell our story and to talk about the work that we're doing here in Houston's Fifth Ward.
Well, I'm really excited to hear more about it. Let's get us started. For our listeners who may not be familiar with Fifth Ward, how would you describe the community and the strengths that define it?
Well, here in Houston, Texas, Fifth Ward is a community that borders downtown. It's a place that I used to call home. But one of the things that I'm most excited about is the community's resilience, its strong sense of family, its strong sense of history and legacy, and all of our native sons and daughters like Barbara Jordan, Mickey Leland, and all of those who have contributed so much to our society. Today, we stand tall, and this year we're excited because we represent 160 years of community in making a difference for the city of Houston.
Wow, it's an incredible history and legacy. I know that your team works closely with families and navigating changes in homeownership and property transfer. And I know that many families encounter challenges when they least expect it, like tangled titles or unexpected inheritance issues. Can you tell us a little bit more how those kinds of problems show up for the families that you work with and what's involved?
Sure, Marietta. Tangled titles have been a nuance in my career for 30 years. It's how we actually got started here in Fifth Ward, and it actually contributed to the decline and the deterioration of our neighborhood. And for many of those families who live here in Fifth Ward, what we find is that there's generational passing down of a tangled title. No one really knows how to clear these matters up, and it's a very costly endeavor. And so what families are faced with are non-performing assets. Families are not in a position where they can take advantage of opportunities to assist with making repairs to the home. They can't access emergency assistance because they don't have clear title. And the resolution is both costly and complex. Many times you have generations of family where they've passed down this asset from generation to generation, and everyone is not on the same page. Different people have different claims and stakes on the property, but no one has a common theme of how they'd like to see this endeavor become a producing wealth and asset building tool that the entire family can enjoy.
So I would assume then that your team, you and your team, work with families on sort of on estate planning and how to manage those assets within the family to try to get everyone on the same page. And what I think is interesting about what you just described is oftentimes we think of estate planning as being something that high wealth individuals engage in. But what you're describing is everyone needs to pay attention to this, particularly if you're passing on real estate to other people in your family.
It is so critical, particularly in areas like Fifth Ward, Marietta, where housing is the number one issue that we aim to address in this community. It's also a barrier to affordable housing opportunities, and people are not able to build wealth or grow their assets. And so this is particularly important. So we spend a lot of time here at Fifth Ward educating families on the importance of taking care of your business. Let's get will planning done. Let's get estate planning done. And you're exactly right. This is not something for the rich. It's for everyone so that we can take advantage and continue to have access to opportunities that will allow families to be resilient, allow them to be agile, allow them to have a place that they can call home and a vested interest in that property. And it doesn't become what many people refer to as dead capital or a non-performing asset because they can't grow. They can't really provide a foundation for their families because anyone can come and make claim on that property. And guess what? You'll be out.
I'm going to dig in that a little bit deeper. I hadn't really heard the term, dead capital. It can really cause a huge issue in that tangled process that can be a real barrier for families.
It is. When you think about the season that we're in right now, Marietta, when we are recovering from natural disasters and storms and things like that, many of the proceeds and the resources that are available to our organization to offer assistance to families, we're not able to support them because we have to have clear title. Because you occupy a property does not mean that you own a property. So that we don't have squatters' rights that we can implement. We actually have to have true ownership. And so when you think about that in an area where a community is 160 years old and the average housing stock is 80 plus years old, what you find is that the houses begin to deteriorate. And so it's not that people don't want to invest in their properties. They can't invest in their properties because there's no guarantee of return. And lenders in particular are not going to take a risk in investing in a property or lending proceeds where there's not clear title and there's risk of someone else coming and staking a claim. It just does not happen.
Wow. I can see how that, particularly in response to an environmental crisis like a flood or a fire, and then you find out that there's a tangled title, how disruptive that can be for a family.
It is often disruptive, Marianne. And what's so alarming is that many families don't realize that they're operating or living in an environment with a tangled title because it's not something that we've always talked about. You didn't realize it was a thing that you had or reality that you had to deal with until you wanted to transact business or until you needed to pay the taxes. And now today, even if you want to get insurance, many of our insurers are not providing insurance to people who are not actually on record as being an owner or occupant of that particular dwelling. So the challenges and the barriers are not getting any less, they're getting greater. And so this presents a real problem for families. And what you find is that you have blocks and blocks of deteriorating housing or housing that has gone vacant. And what that means for communities like Fifth Ward is that property at some point becomes owned by the city or owned by the state because the taxes become delinquent because the families are not paying the taxes. It becomes run down, overgrown, and becomes a real threat to our community. And we have to tear the property down. What a loss.
A huge loss. And so many times we think about inheritance as a legal or a financial process. But what you're describing is it's a community housing issue. And how can you describe for our listeners, how do you work with families that have this issue? And how do those services fit into the services and the programs that you offer at Fifth Ward?
You're so right, Marietta. This represents a housing crisis that have gone ignored for far too long. And Fifth Ward CRC is very intentional about helping our families begin to respond to these types of issues. So first of all, we start with a little bit of education, and a little bit of education goes a long way. So we really begin to educate families on the importance of understanding ownership, understanding wills, understanding what generational heirs property means, and again, talk about what their strategy and what their unique plan is for resolving this issue. So we work with a number of attorneys here in our city. We're fortunate here in Houston and Harris County that our government has even gotten involved in providing pro bono services for low and moderate income families. But we want to make sure that at the end of the day, we're not legal experts, neither are we attorneys. So we start with education, we start with communication, we start with simple things like helping them to open title or doing a deed search to find out where everything starts, and then create a plan for them to take the next steps. A lot of times that means that we have to identify all the heirs, and so we help them by completing heirship affidavits. It's a good thing I'm a native of the community, so a lot of the families we work with, I know them personally. And so we talk to them very candidly about, here's who you need to contact. We need to make sure that everyone understands that they have a vested interest in this property. We also introduce them to our title partners at various title companies to start the process of opening title so they can actually see who the owners of record are. And from there, create the heirship affidavit. Then we'll refer them either to our county, Lone Star Legal Aid, or the Earl Carl Institute that actually provides them with the legal advice and the legal assistance they need to clear the title. And if they can afford, they can always go to a private attorney for some assistance. But a lot of times it means traveling to different parts of the city, the state, and the country to identify all of the heirs, make contact with them, let them know what's going on, and express their interest in the property and take the next steps. Sometimes we even have to be mediators, Marietta, because not all the time are families on the same page about what they would like to see happen to the property or what they'd like in return. There's an assumed investment, which means that people are expecting some cash in exchange for their participation. So it's a delicate walk, and we're happy to hold their hand throughout that process and talk about good quality education and give them good direction for next steps.
Before we continue, I want to invite you to join us in Chicago this February for the 2026 NeighborWorks Training Institute. From February 23rd through February 27th, housing and community development professionals from across the country will come together to learn what works, build connections, and develop solutions that strengthen communities nationwide. Chicago is more than just our host city. It represents the collaboration, resilience, and innovation that define this work. Learn more and register at neighborworks.org. I hope to see you there. You know, it sounds from your description here that education is an important tool, information arms the families so that they can make informed decisions about what to do with their property. You mentioned something that I think is critically important here. You yourself, but your organization has a long-standing history in the community. Therefore, people trust you and trust that you are giving them sound advice and direction. I would imagine that this is also a place in communities that could be ripe for misinformation and could lead people into making decisions that maybe aren't in their best interest. Do you see that happen?
We see it happen all the time, Marietta. Our community is a feeding ground for predatory practices. And so many people fall victim to those who don't have their best interest at heart. You have predatory purchases. We call them the yellow sign bandits who come into the community, those who are cash investors looking to make a quick buck. And so, again, we have to constantly educate our families. And because we've been able to build relationships and trust with the community, most often those who are seniors or who are vulnerable populations will reach out to our office and at least inquire about how they should proceed. And we're very careful to give them good, solid advice because one, we don't want to lead them astray, but two, we want to maintain the level of trust that they've invested in our organization so that they can refer others. And that's why we don't have to do a lot of advertising. It's word of mouth. Someone will receive assistance. They'll be satisfied with the service. And guess what? They're going to refer someone else. And so that's how we maintain our visibility in the community, our relationship in the community, and have good conversations and communications around educating people about the nuances of tangled title.
I think that trust is so important because in so many communities across the country, talking about your finances, talking about your property, particularly when many family members are involved, is kind of culturally a taboo. People tend to keep their finances kind of private. Don't usually like talking to outside people. It doesn't sound like it's too hard of a sell for your team to bring folks in and provide them the information to get them better informed.
When you have willing participants and family members who are working towards a common goal, it's a much easier conversation. It's about relationship building. And as a community developer who has a 35-year, almost a 40-year history in this community, we've become a household name for many of our residents. And so that helps. It's not always the case when you have investors or owners who have an interest in the property who are not from the state of Texas or city of Houston, who are not familiar with our work. They want to treat us as though we are one of the predatory persons who are looking to just take their property from them. And so it's about relationship building. We have to have conversations. We have to let them know that, look, we have a track record of providing this service. Here's what we want to do. And we're not telling you what decisions to make. What we're trying to do is coach you and provide you with information that will arm you to make your decisions about how you would like to see your family's asset stay in the family or how you would like to dispose of it. And so when you arm people with that approach that you're coaching them and you're not telling them this is what you have to do and you're not putting any pressure on them, we will work as fast as they'd like, or we will take our time and we will tell the story as many times as we need to so that they understand and can make an educated decision. We want them to continue to have faith in us, have confidence, and believe in the work that we're doing to continue to support our comprehensive efforts. Because again, this is a housing issue. How do we help families recognize that this is an opportunity for them to build wealth and or maintain assets for their family so that they can maintain their capacity and desire to stay right here in Fifth Ward?
I that's so important. I love that so much. Do you have any tips or, if someone, one of our listeners isn't fortunate enough to live in Houston, that have access to your organization, are there warning signs? Are there triggers that you would say, if you see this happening or you experience this, it's time to reach out to a housing counseling provider in your community? Are there some advisory tips that you can provide?
Well, Marietta, the old adage still holds true today. If it sounds too good to be true, it is. If people are being very assertive or overly aggressive about telling you what to do with your property, that's a warning sign. If people are not from your community and not have a commitment to the community and represent themselves as individual investors, Be a little bit leery. Don't be too trusting. Do your homework. Research the people that you're dealing with. Contact your Better Business Bureau. Reach out to someone who will have your best interest at heart, whether that's a realtor, a title company, legal aid, an attorney, or a community development corporation. There are NeighborWorks organizations all across the country. We're very plentiful. And our goal is to help make sure that we're helping those that we serve.
I think that's really helpful. And I appreciate if it seems too good to be true or you're feeling highly pressured, it's okay. Take a beat and get some information. Housing stability is not just about a roof over your head. It's about legacy, ownership, and whether families can hold on to what they've worked generations to build. In Houston's Fifth Ward, we see how inheritance, estate planning, and access to good, solid information shape outcomes for families and neighborhoods. And we see how community-based organizations like Fifth Ward Community Redevelopment Corporation are stepping in where systems fall short. In part 2 of this conversation, we're going to go deeper. We'll explore how nonprofit and government partnerships, disaster resilience intersect with this work and what it takes to protect communities through disruption while planning for long-term stability. I'm Marietta Rodriguez, President and CEO of NeighborWorks America. Thank you for joining us for part 1 of this conversation on the community effect. We'll see you in part 2.
This is the Community Effect, brought to you by NeighborWorks America.